Good evening, guys, and welcome to our second Midnight Reiki session of the evening. My name is Jamie, and we are doing a part 2 to expanding into light. So if that sounds like you, you can connect here to our amethyst. You can connect to the sound of my voice. You can connect via eye contact. And we're also going to do an energy merge. So if that sounds like you or something you're working on, you can connect here now. Or if you listen to part 1 and just are here for part 2. Oh. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so in part 1, we were talking about expanding into light, and we're expanding into more illumination and awareness of ourselves. And expanding into more illumination and awareness, which is enlightenment, the light, we have to also expand into our shadow, or the unilluminated parts of ourselves. And that's kind of what we've been talking about here, is expanding both up and down symbolically at the same time, and coming into a balance, and how that might look very chaotic and disruptive while it's happening, because you have to end a previous way of existing, so you have to have an ego death, and then you move into that space. So if this is for people who are currently in process, or have just done this, or just getting ready to do this, and we are working with coming into not just awareness, but a radical acceptance of all of the aspects of ourselves. So we're finding the sacred in the mundane right now. And there's a call for someone, especially if you're having a really rough time right now, you're being asked to remember that every part of what you're going through is sacred. So you're not gonna be whole and beautiful and divine once you get through this painful ending that leads to this beginning. You're sacred now. Like, the pain that you're going through, the death that you're going through is sacred now. And that's you, right? That part of you is sacred too. So if, let's say that you're sitting in the shower crying, and you're holding space for yourself over something you can't tell anyone else about, and you're holding space for yourself in the shower, and you're crying, and it's something you're ashamed of, or you're grieving, that's sacred. That is sacred space that you are creating for your healing. Okay, you are not... when we move into these parts of ourselves that we don't want to share with other people, we don't want the world to see, or we don't even really want to look at ourselves, and we sit in that space and we love ourselves in that space, that's you expanding into light. Okay, it's not you sitting and talking to angels and, pulling light energy in. Like, absolutely, that's a big part of it, and we do that a lot because you need the balance. But sitting in your own shadow, the parts of you that you aren't sharing, the parts of you that hurt when you look at them, that is sacred too. Okay, if you're angry and you're yelling at God right now because you're battling this ego death, that's sacred too. Okay, there's no destination when it comes to your divinity and you being a sacred divine being now. You are that now. You are that in every stage of your being, in every process of you becoming the best version of you, and that includes when you have been the worst version of you. Okay, that you is also sacred. Okay, that you is also divine. That work is sacred and divine. In fact, that work is probably more sacred than sitting and just, mantra repeating or sitting in peace. Like, that's hard to do too. A lot of people can't get there, but it's much scarier to sit in your own chaos, to sit in your own pain and say, okay, what is this showing me? What do I need to work through here or understand about myself so that I can let this go, or that I can transmute it? Because that's what this is. This is a transmutation process. You're releasing, and that's okay. That's also coming through. Letting go of the pain is not you letting go of defensive self. Okay, that's not you saying something is okay. That's you letting go of that circumstance, that energy, so new energy can come in, right? You can always say no to that energy should that energy try and come back. You can set up a boundary. That doesn't have to be an emotional block to yourself, right? So you can let that go. You can say, I forgive. You don't have to forgive the person if you can't right now. Say, I forgive the situation because the situation made me who I am. And then, send that person mentally off. You don't have to send love or consciousness. If you don't, just say, okay, spirit, off with them, please, and thank you. Okay, you can send love and consciousness too. Send them healing, get them out of my energy. Okay, I don't know how we got on that subject. Sorry, guys, I got cut off. Anyway, the reason initially I did the part 2 because I wanted to tell a little story that has to do with the imagery behind that I got when I did part 1, which, if you missed that, is 2 dualistic energies, the enlightened version and the less enlightened version. And that imagery also reminded me of a representation that Spirit gave me of my own energy. And this was during a tower moment. It was during a really big awakening where I had a huge ego death in order to do something. And that's something, oh my gosh, I keep getting cut off. Okay, the something was this. So when I first started to do community work, I had to use grids to do it. And I would use 3 grids to do midnight Reiki to reach the amount of people I wanted to reach. And while I was doing that, I asked Spirit to help me condition my energy field to be able to do this kind of large-scale community work without having to do the grids. Because people didn't respond really well to the grids. So I was like, okay, well, apparently that's not how we do this. So I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And they said, okay, this is how you do it. And so they started showing me what to do. And I started following, their instructions. And one of the things they had me do was that inner sanctuary building meditation I did for you guys, the Empress one. And so I'm doing stuff like that, and I'm building up my energy field. And while all of this is happening, a bunch of stuff from my childhood is coming up. And one of the big things is that before I got into my clairsenses, which happened very early, before I learned angelic Reiki, any kind of Reiki, I didn't start that till I was 21. My very first sense of energetic interactions with other people was the fact that my energy holds concentrated polarities. So a polarity of divine light and a polarity of divine darkness. And those polarities are polarizing. And the reason that is in there is because it transmutes. It pulls apart energy, right? It transmutes, it separates, it helps people move into tower moments so that they can have a phoenix rising moment. But as a kid, I didn't know that's what that energy did. It just, people would get mad at me. People would yell at me. This didn't happen till you said that. This didn't happen till you got here. And it would create waves and chaos around me. And the way I would make it stop would be shrinking. I would shrink. I would, pull those parts of myself back in. And we've talked about this a lot so far. If you've been with me the whole time, we've talked about family, religion, all of these things that kind of scared me out of my gifts, and understanding my own nature, right? My own nature terrified me, and I couldn't understand it, and it repelled people away from me. Or so I thought. Well, lo and behold, I get to a point later, I shoved this down, I kind of ignored it, and I noticed the pattern throughout my life, right? But I could never really talk about this to anyone. I would just use it for myself because I was not spared from these tower moments. It happened to me all of the time. Constant ego death, rebirth, just over and over and over. So I knew about it. But I shunned that because what I wanted to do was help people release suffering, and live a life where they felt free. And that duality didn't look like what I thought a healer looked like. And I pushed that imagery and that thought away, and that natural condition that was me. That was just how I was. And so I get back and I'm doing this work and I'm asking Spirit, okay, this is what I want to do. Please help me do this. So we do about a year of big energy changes to my field. And then I've already released so much in my life. I've released big foundations, and I'm at a point now where I'm like, okay, I want to move forward. And they're like, you're not ready. And all of these big things started happening in my life. It was a series of events that just, like, things crumbled, and things that were already gone out of my life. And I just had the biggest ego death I've ever had, and it was painful and chaotic. And there was a lot of stuff kind of leading into it, and it was this violent rebirth. And at the end of it, all that was there was those dual energies, and they were so strong and so loud. And I thought there must be some kind of mistake. How am I back at this? How am I back at this? I was supposed to have evolved and, like, changed and grown. And all of my changing and growing took me back to my own nature. I just couldn't accept it. But if I wanted to do this work, I had to. And it was just this whole big cycle. And I would never have been able to string the events that completed that cycle together. And it hurt and it was scary. So if that's where you are and you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, it is there, okay? You are in the midst of one of the biggest rebirths you have ever experienced, and it's not gonna look probably the way that you thought, but what you asked for is being gifted to you. And maybe it's not how you expected it to be, and maybe you're not how you expected to be, but you have to be a different person if you want a different life, if you want a different future. And if you have asked for that different future and things are being torn down and taken away from you, even if you don't understand why, or you don't understand the function of everything going on, just try and trust right now. And if you are going through a chaotic, violent ego death, lean into it, cry it out, feel your pain, and then let it go. It doesn't feel good, but you have to stretch into that shadow to expand into the light. This is sacred work too, okay? The pain is sacred. Moving through your own shadow is just as divine as sitting in a place of unconditional love or peace, okay? We are here to have a human experience. The point of this lesson is duality, and to be able to sit in it. And yeah, that's what you're doing. You're just not to the peace part yet, okay? So I love you, and I really hope that helped. We're gonna anchor that in. Okay, guys. I don't know why I clicked at you like a kitty.